Well, hello, everyone. I am excited to be here to pop into your timeline today. And we are going to talk about today the three C's of podcasting. But before we begin, I definitely want to give a few moments for Facebook to let my audience know that I am here because this information you are going to want to hear about. And as you are coming in, please let me know where you are tuning in from. And if you catch this in a replay, definitely comment below #replay. But before we begin this conversation on the three C's of podcasting, I want to give an opportunity to introduce myself to those who don't know who I am. My name is Sonia Keeve, and I am the CEO and founder of Sisters with a Voice podcast network. And I help women entrepreneurs to get unstuck from thinking about starting a podcast to actually building, monetizing, and launching in just 30 days. And so there are many of us out here. Maybe you have thought to yourself, Sonia, I have been wanting to start a podcast. And in my conversations with people in talking about starting a podcast, the first question I ask is, why haven't you launched? And so I get a myriad of answers from, I'm just fearful of doing it, to maybe I'm not real sure how podcasting fits into what I already do. Or perhaps you have everything, the equipment, everything you need, but you just haven't launched. And so these can be some things that can definitely keep you from launching a podcast. But I'd like to offer some advice of what you can do to launch it and some things you need to consider and think about actually before you launch. And so, again, today we are talking about the three C's of podcasting. And the first C that I want you to think about is clarity. In order to launch a podcast, and a successful podcast where not only you're launching but you're maintaining, is that number one, you need to be very clear on what is the overall goal for your podcast show. You have to know, what is that end goal? What must people walk away from as a result of listening to your show? You know, some of the things that I talk about with some of my clients who are starting podcast shows, I always start with asking them, what are they most passionate about? Because usually they can list a whole lot of things, right? They can list things that inspire them. They can talk about some of their expertise. And with all of those passions that you have for wanting to start a podcast, you need to niche down and get very clear about what problem will your podcast solve, or what passion will your podcast invoke. Because as you're thinking about your ideal listener who will tune into your show, you cannot reach your intended target if you aren't even clear on your messaging. Because in podcasting, your content creation is going to be predicated on understanding what is the problem that your podcast will solve. Because think about it, you will have a listening audience that will tune in for an undivided amount of time, whether your show is 30 minutes, 45, or an hour. And so, in that moment, when someone is in their car, or they're working out, or they're, just having the time to just sit and be still, they're tuning in to your messaging. And so if they're tuning into your messaging, you need to make sure that the content you're creating is clear and answers the question for which the listener needs to get an answer for. And so, number one step in the three C's of podcasting is having clarity around the overall goal of your show and what the audience will walk away with as a result of listening to your show. And for those that are tuning in, I'd like to welcome you here for this talk on the 3 C's of podcasting. My name is Sonia Key, CEO and founder of Sisters with the Voice Podcast Network. And I help entrepreneurs to build, launch, and monetize a podcast in just 30 days. And so the first C that we talked about is having clarity around your content and your messaging and the goal for your show. The number 2 C in podcasting is commitment. You have to, before you even launch a show, you need to answer the question, how often will you commit to releasing a brand new episode? And in this space, you have many options. But the thing is, you need to be committed to starting this process, because if you, for example, decide to start a show once a week for like 30 minutes, that's typical of most podcasters that have a show. They'll at least start off their show once a week for 30 minutes. And with that, you must be committed to making sure that you are actually releasing a show once a week for those 30 minutes. Because as you begin to get more awareness around your show and you get the opportunity to build an audience, people are going to want to tune into you. And there's nothing more heartbreaking for podcasters when you are not being committed to the process. And so, as you look at your calendars, you look at your life, as you look at your business, look to see how you can fit podcasting into your marketing mix. Now, one of the things that I know is that podcasting is not time consuming. It just is an extension of what you already do. However, you definitely want to make sure that you are committed to this process, because once you get those raving fans that tune into you, you don't want to let them down by not showing up and being committed to release an episode. And one of the things that I tell my clients to do, to even make sure that you get them on the hook in your show, make the announcement that you will launch an episode every week. Part of when you first launch a show, your what we like to call your intro episode. That intro episode outlines the goal of the show, the reason why you started the podcast show, kind of what was your interest and muse for doing that. And then also letting your audience know that you're going to be committed to releasing that episode for the time that you said. So you can choose to do a weekly show, a daily show, a monthly or bi-weekly show. Now, for brand new podcasters, of course, I try to steer them away from doing daily shows unless you have the time and the capacity to do that. But I feel like if you commit once a week for 30 minutes, most people can put that time in to dedicate for their show. So, number 2 C of podcasting is the commitment, because many podcasters that don't stay in this industry is because they don't stay committed to the process. So don't be that person that doesn't commit to the process. One of the things that I absolutely love about this industry is that your audience really becomes your family. And so when they know that you're going to have a brand new episode ready to load, it's almost like the best kept secret, but they cannot wait to hear what you have to say. So you definitely want to stay committed to the process. And then the number 3 C of podcasting, and you'll probably roll your eyes at this, but you need to be consistent. It's not enough to commit to the process, but you need to be consistent. So it's consistently showing up once a week for 30 minutes. And sometimes I know for some that can be hard, but that's why I want to help you to identify before you even launch, before you tell your friends and family that you have a podcast show. You want to make sure that you are clear about your show and what the messaging will be, who you will serve, and how they will get valuable content when they tune in. You also want to, number 2, you want to be committed to the process. being a podcaster is one of the greatest joys that I have. And it can be the same for you because guess what? When you become a podcaster, you are opening the doors for so many opportunities, whether you want to become a speaker, whether you want to get more brand awareness, whether you want to connect to amazing influencers and experts in your industry. Having this platform as a podcast definitely opens that avenue, but it will not happen for you if you are not committed to this process. And then number 3C of podcasting is being consistent. And as long as you are consistent in this process, people will get the opportunity to know you. Because as a podcaster, building and maintaining a relationship and a fan base is the long game. This isn't the industry where you show up 1 month and then you disappear for the next 3 months. If you decide you want to do a weekly show, show up consistently every week so that your audience can get to know you better. This is the thing that I love and how I've been able to connect with so many amazing people. And thank you to everyone who has said yes to being on Inspiring Nations and Begin Again. And so I hope that as you are thinking about starting a podcast, that you think about these 3 C's that are necessity in order for you to not only launch a podcast, but to maintain it for many years to come. And so if you catch this in the replay, we're talking about the 3 C's of podcasting. I'm Sonia Keefe, CEO and founder of Sisters with the Voice podcast network, where I teach and train women entrepreneurs to build, launch, and monetize a podcast. And so those 3 C's of podcasting is having clarity, number one, being committed to the process, and then number 3, consistently showing up for the folks that you are called to serve. And if you can get these 3 things foundationally before you launch a podcast, you will find more joy in connecting with people. You'll have the opportunity to share your expertise and bring more brand awareness to what you do, how you do it, and how you serve. So thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast on the 3 C's of podcasting. And if you are considering starting a podcast in 2022, I have an amazing offer for you. I am teaching and hosting a 6-week course called Launch Your Podcast in 30 Days. And I'm going to help you get that clarity, commitment, and consistency that you need. We'll talk about content creation. We'll talk about how do you get on all of the amazing podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and so many more. We'll talk about editing your show. We'll talk about everything you need so that when you walk away, you not only have a clarity for your show idea, but you are able to brilliantly launch in just 30 days. And so if you know someone who's interested, the next class will begin on April the 10th of 2022. We meet once a week for about an hour and we go through 7 modules because the 7 is the number of completion. And so I truly believe when you work with me, you will not only get the clarity you need, the consistency and the commitment to launch, but you'll learn how to make money, build an audience, and have raving fans for life. Because when you work with me, this is what you get. And so I hope that you will join me. And if you're interested in knowing more details on how you can register and secure your spot, because I only take 10 students each semester. And so we have the amazing students that are going through the course right now. So if you want to secure your seat, definitely comment below me. I'm interested, and I will get you the details for how you can launch your podcast. As I said at the top of this broadcast, many people don't launch for fear of the unknown, for not being clear on their messaging, and then simply not having the tools and resources so that they can launch with ease and no stress. And here at Sisters with the Voice Podcast Network, I bust all of those myths, give you the clarity that you need so that you can build, launch, and monetize a powerful podcast in just 30 days. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next class and hope that you take these 3 C's of podcasting so that you will know your next step. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.